welcome to the Talkcast Podshow, the #1 show on the internet, and your favorite space cowboys. I'm your host, the man formerly known as Fearless, Lani, and I'm joined by, well, he's not black, but he is male, Kaiser Neko.
Oh, that's what we're starting on!
I am going to start on that, because today we're going to be talking about Cowboy Bebop, the Netflix series.
I call it Netflix Bebop. Not derogatorily, but just to kind of like, it immediately tells people what I'm talking about.
Yeah, and that's fair. But before we get to the meat of this little bit of rundown we want to go through, because starting up soon in a couple of weeks here, we got December, baby. The last.
Yeah, and I'm taking my time away from editing that right now.
Right now.
To record this shit.
To talk about Cowboy Bebop, the Netflix version. This year we're going to be going over our top 12 arcs of Dragon Ball.
Yeah, or sagas.
Sagas, arcs.
Because sagas contains multiple arcs.
True. And some arcs span sagas, like Gohan's arc of becoming a man. But, you know, a man, or Vegeta's arc of not being a total asshole. Yeah, so it'll be our top 12 sagas of Dragon Ball, and we'll be joined by a fan of the channel, and we love him as well. Oh, we not talked about it yet.
No, we haven't said it.
Ooh, do we want to drop it here?
Oh, no, it's definitely gonna. I want to keep that a mystery until.
Well, then we're joined by a very special guest for this one. It'll be very, very interesting to see who can spot it or who can call it. You know what? See if you can call it in the comments.
Oh,
below.
I'm sure everybody's gonna be able to call it now.
I don't know about that. We'll see.
Engage in the comments.
Engage with your media.
Analytics.
Engage with all of our hot takes as well. But yeah, looking forward to that. We're also going to be playing some Kakarot. There's been some DLC that got dropped, and I'll be honest, I went back through to like grind out to, you know, just dip my toe in there and see what we're going to be going back into. When we were playing it, I think I underappreciated the game a bit. If you're just turning your brain off and going, it is a perfectly fine game. I don't think it is the best Dragon Ball game. I think I would rank it somewhere above the Xenoverse games, but around Legacy of Goku, like beneath that.
Yeah, honestly, well, I remember when we were playing it, we were just kind of trying to get through the damn thing at a reasonable, like,
and it's still very easy to do that, and I found way better ways to do it.
Okay, well, I'm looking forward to those.
It shall be very interesting, but we'll be going through that shortly as well. Alternately, have you seen Hawkeye? Because that also came out recently.
No, I haven't had a chance.
It is okay.
Yeah, I was out of town visiting a friend. We didn't watch any of it, so I just got back a couple days ago. I had to literally shove in the last 4 episodes of Cowboy Bebop last night to make sure that I was ready for this.
Yeah, Hawkeye, I think it's... Personally, I'm liking it better than Falcon and Winter Soldier so far.
Yeah?
So I think it's like a step up, but it is just, you know, kind of more Marvel, like the... which you're already kind of feeling.
It's just more Marvel is exactly what I've been feeling for the last couple of years.
But the Marvel that we've been getting in theaters has been different-ish. In fact, maybe a little like too different for like some audiences. I don't know. Like it feels very different. Like it feels like we've gone from, you know, like a golden age of comics to like silver age comics kind of thing. I don't actually know if my metaphor is clicking there because I don't know the difference between those two eras.
I mean, obviously, I think the problem is that we had these groundbreaking films to build up to a crescendo, and now it feels like we're starting from step 2, not step 1.
Yeah.
Because at least for like we're starting from a place of, okay, we're familiar with a lot of these characters and concepts.
Yeah,
and world. But
yeah, in terms of like narrative arc, we didn't really get a lot of falling action. It was like climax cliff.
Yeah, because I mean, all the falling action happened at the end of Endgame, and so everybody else is like kind of just wondering what the hell they're doing.
So after like, God, days worth of movies, if you watch them like sequentially, I actually don't know how many hours. Somebody in the comments will let me know. But like after all that, you get like 20 minutes of wrap up.
Yep.
So you have to like start fresh and anew. You're like, okay, come on. You like the Eternals, right? Sort of. Okay.
Oh my! This
Spider-Man's coming out though.
Yeah.
Spider-Man.
Yeah.
Spider-Men.
Yep.
Spiders. Got my ticket.
I mean, of course it's got my ticket because I am hopeless Also a huge Spider-Man fan, so it's not like
Spider Mark.
I am a Spider Mark.
Who isn't?
Right, but like I already got the Spider-Verse movie I needed, and now I'm getting one with Tom Holland, who has not had much of a chance to be his own Spider-Man, it feels like, because it's always been...
He's had 2 movies, but he's always been in the shadow of Tony Stark.
In the shadow of Tony Stark, and like always... He hasn't, as I've said before, he does not feel like Peter Parker in any of his previous incarnations, because he doesn't feel like a poor kid barely making it by. He feels like this kid who has a decent home, a decent school, decent support. He barely has to deal with any home problems. It's all been outer conflicts from like all the superhero shit that he's taken on.
Well, isn't that what we're going to be kind of getting in that, like the Disney Plus series?
Maybe?
Whew, excuse me. Thank you. But yeah, you'll be getting like more of his origin stuff in that, from what I understand, for those that really want to see Uncle Ben die again.
We can't get
they're the same people that want to see Bruce Wayne's parents get shot up.
I'm sorry. Do you mind me cutting in?
Oh my gosh!
Very,
oh my god!
very
This
opinionated.
is so unprofessional.
Stefan,
We're in the wide. It's fine.
Yeah, text Stefan. What do you have to say?
I think at the end of this movie that we're gonna get, this is my theory. I have been looking at the spoiler Reddit, but this is not spoiled or anything.
Right.
I think there's going to be a sort of reset at the end of this movie. I think that's what they're setting up with the Doctor Strange.
And how you'll get to like
even
multiverse
Peter's
of madness
friends'
and stuff
minds.
like that.
I think we're gonna get a reset at the end of this movie where we're gonna get the more stripped down Peter. He doesn't have help from Happy anymore, because I don't think Happy's gonna know who he is.
Yeah. I think like you're going to get like this
if
big
Happy's
brain
alive, 'cause
wipe.
who knows?
Yeah.
Happy's right. His surrogate dad right now, which means he's marked for death. That's
Yeah.
what that means.
Pretty much.
If he forgets Peter, that is the best thing that can happen to Happy, and then he can give Morgan some cheeseburgers and stuff.
Yeah.
But that's if he doesn't die first, because if you're Peter's surrogate dad, you're gonna die, or be removed from his life somehow. So that's my 2 cents. All right, bye.
Yeah, no worries. I honestly, I think that is one way that they can definitely go about it. It's also the way I've been looking at the ever-approaching Flash movie. I think they're gonna reset that entire universe with a Flashpoint movie. It's the only way they can try to start fresh again.
Yeah, I don't know. It's all really messy and convoluted, and if I had to be completely frank, like with the DC stuff, I don't know. I just don't know why they don't start anew.
Well, they kind of already do. I mean, the one thing I give DC a lot of credit for is they are willing, like they early on were very willing to tell a bunch of different stories, not even in the same universe. Like they did the Joker movie. They announced the Pattinson Batman movie, which clearly doesn't take place in the Batfleck universe.
That's true. That's actually true. They're happy to just... And that's like
throw at the wall and see what sticks. Like they've embraced the multiverse, because wasn't DC one of the I don't know if Marvel or DC came up with the multiverse too first, but DC is infamous for like Earth number 575, Earth 2, Earth Prime.
It's true. It does feel like out of all the research that I've done, i.e. I watched a bunch of Trailer Drake videos, it does kind of seem like DC has abused the multiverse concept more than any other. But I don't know. It'll be interesting. Ultimately, as I said, I'm not looking forward to the Spider-Man movie, but they've got my ticket, and maybe I'll be surprised. Maybe it will have all of the heart that I felt like the Sam Raimi movies did. And maybe it'll have some of the great action set pieces that both it and Amazing Spider-Man had.
It has a lot of hype built up behind it. Like, this is the first Marvel movie since Endgame that's really had some actual hype generated.
I mean, yeah, that's Spider-Man for you.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess we'll see.
It'll be very interesting, and that's going to be in a couple weeks. Also in a couple weeks, we got the, speaking of Netflix, we have The Witcher Season 2 coming out, which I hear they recast Cavill for, future seasons. I have no idea what's going on there. I
haven't even finished season 1, so I don't know what to say, but what?
I read in some article, so I'm spitting out second degree news that I'm not even verified myself.
Fair.
But I heard that he got recast by somebody from like some HBO show. I don't remember the actor specifically.
There must have been a problem with scheduling or something.
I hear that season 2 had a lot of issues. Like Cavill actually got injured on set at one point, so there might be something going on there. But I don't know. I think he's a fantastic Geralt. I'm looking forward to season 2. I loved season 1. So.
A quick side note, we don't have to spend too much time on this. Did you see the animated movie that was on Netflix?
I saw parts of it.
It's very well animated.
Yeah. I did not see the whole thing. I was kind of in the middle of a nap when I put it on. So I was like zoning in and out.
Yeah, that's all I have to say about it is that it's very well animated. It is not a good story, and the acting is okay, but it is very pretty.
I do remember it being very pretty. I know it's all about like the sacking of Kaer Morhen and how the Witchers became so like small of a group. That's all I really remember.
Yeah, that's basically the movie.
But I also kind of already knew the lore. The games helped with that.
Right.
Let's see. Anything else going on? I know Steel Ball Run just dropped. I haven't...
Oh, no, Stone Ocean.
Stone Ocean just dropped. I haven't watched that yet.
Yeah. Steel Ball Run is the next one, and that's apparently like the best one since like 2 and 3. So,
okay.
And 4. So I'm very excited for that one. Although, honestly, watch the first several episodes of Stone Ocean. I knew very little about it going in. I'm actually really into this season so far.
And it's Netflix, so they dropped a huge chunk of episodes. Is it the full season, or is it like half, and then they're going to drop another part later?
It's a half.
Okay.
Yeah.
So they're treating it like Baki and everything else that they get.
Yeah. Luckily, thank God, we are getting the Japanese and the dub at the same time.
That is nice.
Yeah, like they worked with David Productions to make sure that they could dub it before it hit in Japan, so no Netflix jail this time.
Just straight out. Okay.
Just, yeah.
Although that might have held up the Japanese production too, so at least they had to deal with Netflix jail as well.
Yeah. Well, everybody had to wait a little bit longer, but you know what? Honestly, if that means that these shows don't have to be pirated, that's cool. I mean, anything that makes it more widely available to people in a legal money-making sense. Because I want David Productions. There's nothing I like more than the things that I love getting money to make more things that I love.
And as I continue this gradient of a segue, we're talking anime, we're talking Netflix. What do you think about the live-action One Piece announcement?
I hate
that's accurate.
I hate the fact that I really like this casting.
The casting looks fine.
Yeah, the casting looks great. Honestly, out of any live action production that I've seen outside of some of the Japanese stuff that I've seen, like for an American product, this casting looks more solid than any other thing that I've seen, with maybe the exception of the American Avatar series. Because the casting for that has looked pretty good as well.
Oh, the new one. I'm like, what the
I said series, not movie.
True. Sorry, you gave me Shyamalan flashbacks.
Yeah. But my problem, and honestly, I think it was, I've said this name plenty of times on the Talkcast Podshow, but Cosmonaut Marcus talked about this. It's so pointless because there's nothing that these shows are going to be able to do that is going to outdo the original.
Yeah, that's the thing that's kind of getting me. Well, aside from maybe truncating some of the longer shit. But that's the thing that's kind of getting to me on that one. When I heard that they were doing a One Piece thing, I'm like, what kind of a budget are they giving it to make it look any good?
Yeah, also, let's be completely honest, part of the appeal of One Piece
is how cartoony it is.
Yeah, Eiichiro Oda, sorry, but all the comedy of the original One Piece is not going to translate because a lot of the comedy came from his expression work. So without that...
Yeah, to flash forward just a little bit into this conversation, but for those that have watched the Netflix Cowboy Bebop, what they did with Ed, imagine that with every character. Because that's kind of what One Piece is.
Yeah.
One Piece is all of the anime characters doing anime things, and Ed is a very anime character in a somewhat realistic, toned setting.
In Cowboy Bebop, Ed is very specifically out of place. They are supposed to be. Like, her entire point in the original Cowboy Bebop is that they are fucking weird and strange and childish, whereas everybody else on the ship has their own childish notions, their own childish moments, but are generally adults who are just trying to get along and get by.
Yeah, they have adult problems. Ed does not have those adult problems and can just live freely like a free spirit because Edward is Edward.
Yeah. Edward von Pepelu Trubisky IV. Mm-hmm. And yeah, so it's really... Honestly, this One Piece series has to really, really do its own thing for it to be any good. Because if it tries at all to mimic what the original manga did, it's just going to be a worse version of it.
Yeah, it's going to be like those live-action anime movies, and the production value on those have
like
never
Full
been...
Metal Alchemist.
Which I actually kind of enjoyed, but...
Yeah, I heard the Bleach one's actually kind of okay.
I haven't seen it. The only anime movies, live-action anime movies that I have truly, truly enjoyed were Rurouni Kenshin.
Yeah, Rurouni Kenshin was...
The action in that just...
Also, I am still firmly in the camp of the Netflix Death Note being a must-watch.
Oh, it's fantastically bad.
Yes.
It's up there with like Spider-Man 3 for me and like a chef's kiss.
And the best part is, like, the stuff that's actually meant to work sometimes does.
Yeah, it does.
Which makes it even better when the stuff that you're not sure how it was supposed to work, but just is spectacularly bad.
Way out there.
It's such a weird little movie. I love it because of just how bizarre it actually is.
And what you just said almost perfectly encapsulates how I feel about the Cowboy Bebop Netflix series. Segues!
I feel like this is less of a segue, and we just bled into the topic.
Pretty much. Isn't that a segue?
We were there by the time we even mentioned.
Exactly. I wanted to masterfully, gradiently pull us in there, and we're here now. Because I watched through it. I binged it. I got very inebriated on substances, and I watched the hell out of it. And at the end of it all, I came out thinking, you know what? This was all right. It made some weird choices. It made some choices that are obviously going to rub people the wrong way. It made some choices that rub me the wrong way. But as its own thing, I kind of enjoyed it.
So I'm going to, be completely honest. I'm not going to act like I could separate this version from the original. I am not going to act like I could actually do that, because that would be lying.
It's impossible, because they are literally taking the episode plots and trying to weave them into a cohesive narrative, when Cowboy Bebop was very much a story of the week kind of thing until actual plot happened.
Yeah, the actual plot advancing episodes are few and far between.
And they're very much this is a Spike episode, this is a Faye episode, this is a Jet episode. There are some episodes where you kind of commingle them, but that doesn't happen until I think some happen kind of near the middle, and then at the end.
Yeah.
You get a few of their actual commingling episodes. I did this in a specific order. They dropped the anime on Netflix a couple of weeks before the live action was going to come out, try to generate some hype. Might have done it a little more damage than good, just to remind people of how good the original anime was. But I did not watch the anime again, I'd obviously previously seen it.
Agreed. I also have not seen the anime in a decade.
Yeah, it had been a hot minute. I'm now rewatching through it just to kind of give myself a comparison. And if you have to choose to watch this narrative in a certain medium, watch the anime.
Yeah.
The anime is superior in a lot of ways, though the show does do a few things different that I do like a lot. I really like the chemistry between our core cast. I think they play off really well after you get over the initial Faye out of nowhere is this amazing martial artist. They completely change what kind of a badass Faye is. Because in the show, in the anime, she's still a badass, but she's not bounty hunter, kick-ass, take names later kind of badass. She's she knows what her strengths are. She knows that she can use her wiles and her charm as a weapon. And, sometimes she can still throw down, but she's not like Spike, who is instantly gonna, win most fights he gets into.
So, the interesting thing about the Cowboy Bebop cast in the original version is that they are all bumbling idiots.
Yes.
And that's not something that a lot of people kind of talk about.
They are hyper specialized. They have some things that they are very good at.
Yeah. and when they are put in circumstances where they are unfamiliar, they break down in staccatic fashion. And it's really great to, like, it's always really great to go back to the series and see those moments where they're so cool for one moment, and then in the next, they've completely bungled because of something either unforeseen or overseen entirely.
Yeah.
And one of my favorite examples of that is actually Faye Valentine. Faye has that classic quote, "First rule of combat, shoot them before they shoot you."
It's her first, like, one of her first lines.
Yeah. And then she's immediately captured after. Like, she has this big badass moment where she like
whips around, fires with the machine gun, is like, aha. Like, you know, she's not an incredible marksman or anything, but she's tricky. Like, she knows how to survive in the world.
But she then immediately gets caught undercutting that message. And that is a common thing in Cowboy Bebop, is that for every badass moment that these characters have in the episode to episode, like in the more serious episodes, it cuts down a little bit less on that. But in the almost every episode, every badass moment is balanced with this moment of them fucking up. Somebody on Twitter said, and this is a very fair point, Cowboy Bebop to them is the VHS Betamax scene where Spike Spiegel, not knowing how to deal with this old technology,
beating the crap
starts
out of it.
kicking the shit out of it. So, I wanted to go over this real quick because I'm going to say some things that are going to make it sound like I think Cowboy Bebop needs to be super serious. That is not how I feel.
Because Cowboy Bebop was never super serious.
Yeah, Cowboy Bebop is pretty silly, and all of its main characters are bumbling idiots at times. They all have these great talents that have kept them alive and barely making ends meet, but they're all coming from different places and different parts of the legal spectrum and thrown on a ship together to barely make it by.
The most dysfunctional of families.
Yes. Speaking of dysfunctional families. Okay, so the actual, like, Netflix Bebop, they do a lot to build these characters up as a found family.
Yeah. They try very hard. In some ways they succeed. Like I said, I really like the chemistry between the characters. Although, like, it borders on parody at times.
So, the show, first thing that I want to point out, they made Jet an actual daddy.
Yes. Yeah, they made him a father. Which was a choice.
It's a choice. A choice that kind of tells you what they're trying to do.
Yeah.
Because by making him a father, they had to change the dynamic with him and the rest of the cast. Because
it gives him priorities.
Yeah. The casting for Jet in this was pitch perfect.
He's fantastic.
You could have written the character to be closer to the original version, and he would have been fine. But the version that he's playing here, this feels like, what if you took the original Jet Black and then actually made him a father? That's what this feels like. It doesn't feel like Jet in actual Cowboy Bebop. It feels like a version of Jet from that universe who hooked up and got married.
Do you know what my one of the things that kind of like hit me with that is? If you make this Jet a dad, you're essentially just writing Barrett.
You know what? I can kind of see that. And the way that he reacts with his daughter, one of the funniest, and this isn't spoilers. One of the funniest scenes is in episode 7, and it's when he's dancing. Mm-hmm. I loved that because
they have some great comedic moments in this show, like things that actually made me laugh out loud. The Teddy Bomber episode is something that I laughed pretty fucking great at, especially like near the climax.
Some scenes are genuinely funny. Some
try too hard.
Killed me on the inside. Those are my views.
Some conversations drag on a little too long.
But Jet being a father, like, is I think very indicative of what they were trying to do with the cast, where they're trying to make them way more multidimensional, way more fleshed out, and I fucking hated that because by doing that, all the mystique of the characters is now gone. All of their mystique of their characters go out the window entirely.
They wiki dumped everybody within like the first 5 or 6 episodes. They gave you everything about them. They let you know what's going on in Faye's mind immediately.
Yeah.
And they don't necessarily resolve her plot immediately, but around episode 20 in the anime is when the Betamax thing happens, where she actually, gets to see her past. That happens in like episode 3 or 4 in this or something. Very early.
Episode 7.
Well, either way, still very early in season 1 of this show.
Also, hour-long episodes that combine plots.
Yes, but most of them tend to revolve around one specific plot of a episode from the anime.
The thing that I found is that unfortunately, again, it's like I said, it's hard to not compare them. It would be way easier to not compare them if they weren't trying to do the original stories. If they were trying to tell their own thing, which at the very end of the season, they finally actually really commit to. Which
is really where, honestly, that whole side of the plot is where a lot of my problems come in. And that's...
Yeah, we'll get into it. We're trying to be non-spoiler right now.
Which won't last very long.
Yeah.
I've given you my opinion. If you only want to experience this show one way, watch the anime. If you've already seen the anime and are willing to give it a shot, I think you might have a good time.
I'm pretty sure none of you watching are actually waiting for our opinions on this before you start watching either of them. But if I'm gonna give my general how I feel about it before we get into spoilers, I don't like this. I don't like it, and while I do think there are some elements of it that do actually genuinely work as a full product, I am dissatisfied.
I think Stefan has a thought.
Yeah, just something probably worth considering before going into spoilers. Tonally, I think their thought process was the only anime to movie adaptation that they probably felt really worked was the Wachowskis' Speed Racer film. And they
Which is
thought,
a really weird
what
take.
if we made this show, a little like that? I think that explains a lot of the weirder choices they made, both aesthetically and tonally. And I don't think that you can completely fault that logic, but I don't think it worked in this case.
Well, I can see a lot of that, because a lot of these shots, you can tell how heavily storyboarded this show was. Everything looks very clean, very, very structured.
Which I'm okay with. I'm okay with a heavily storyboarded show, as long as all of its shots are serving a point, as long as all of the decisions they make with its aesthetics have a purpose. Because I'll be honest, one of the things that I genuinely disliked while watching the show was that it felt like they thought Cowboy Bebop, its aesthetic, its universe was just, you can throw everything in there from any generation, you can draw from any anachronism, it's fine. It'll all just work if we just stitch it together. And genuinely, it just kind of it's hokey to me. It just feels, even if it's supposed to be intentionally a little hokey in places, even if for that grindhouse effect or that noir effect is what they were going for, even because I can see it in many, many moments where they're trying to pull very specifically from that grindhouse / noir niche, right? That those genres. But it just never worked for me.
Stefan, counterpoint.
Yeah, sorry. I keep doing this. I should have just set up a mic. But I think the problem is, if you're trying to capture what Cowboy Bebop was silly, but it was relatively grounded for an anime. Mm-hmm. And I'm not someone who was even that big of a fan. I really liked the show. I thought it was really good in a lot of ways. But I still recognize
but you're not like ride or die Cowboy Bebop.
Yeah, but I still recognize that the show was for anime, it was relatively grounded. Yeah, and so a version of Cowboy Bebop that's more faithful is funny, but also kind of grounded and realistic. Not gritty, but kind of realistic.
And that is one of the things that I found, is that a lot of its humor, so a lot of people called them Whedonisms, actually, in a lot of the dialogue.
I can see why.
Yeah, and one of the things that this show absolutely does, and Jeff from Mother's Basement actually made a great comparison, is that if you take one scene from the original show, and again, I'm not trying to compare, but I'm getting at a greater point. If you take one scene from the original show and see how the exact same plot points, ideas, and concepts were communicated in that scene, and then show the corresponding scene from the Netflix version, you see that it is 3 times longer with nothing of value added. And it's so weird because the show is trying so hard to fill in gaps or like inform you early on more of not only the characters' past, but their internal conflicts that they're having now. Nothing is implied in this show. Nothing is implied. It's all said blatantly over and over again.
Yeah, you and Stefan were having this argument earlier about whether or not Cowboy Bebop has subtlety to it. Whether or not you believe that Cowboy Bebop, it's like the anime has subtlety, this show has none.
Yeah, and that's the thing that kills me, is that while I'm watching it, everyone's feelings, everyone's expressions are being told to me. And in the moments where characters are supposed to be connecting with each other and growing their relationship, like the scene, I loved the scene with Spike and Faye comparing bounties and scars.
Yeah, no, that was great. That's a great character moment.
Yes.
For this version of Faye, yeah.
Yeah, and it worked very well for me because that's not something that was in the original version, but it was well scripted, well shot, well acted because by the way, all the actors in this, good. They're good. Like, even with...
all the main actors.
There are some side actors that are a little meh, yeah.
I'm just gonna point out real quick, though, that what you just described is a scene taken beat for beat from Lethal Weapon.
Yeah.
3, I think.
Fuck!
Yeah.
You're telling me that this story with this version of Jet stole from Lethal Weapon?
Nothing's original anymore, Kaiser.
I know, but
I don't even hate the show, but I have to point out that moment is lifted from Lethal Weapon.
Of course!
It was a great scene there, too, though, to be fair.
And I know nothing is original, but it did feel like this is a very... it was really funny. Earlier, you and I were talking about the fact that Cowboy Bebop was very approachable for American audiences.
Very much so, yeah, because it's very multicultural. They have like so many different things going on because that's what would happen when humanity makes it to the stars.
And Watanabe very specifically chose English as the primary language throughout the series because it is the most widely spoken language on Earth. Like even other countries where like.
Because we're too not necessarily ignorant, but too stubborn to really pick up other languages.
A little bit. Yeah, because other countries, English is a second language in all of them, and a lot of other countries are multilingual because of it. Or not because, my point being, he very much made it accessible to American audiences. And yet, this show still feels like it's going out of its way to be even more American-friendly in every regard.
Yeah, Cowboy Bebop, the anime, when I first started watching it, I'd watched a bunch of anime by now. This is when Adult Swim was kicking up. That was the first time I got to see Cowboy Bebop. And, when you compare it to so many of the other things it was running, like the closest thing I could have even compared it to at the time would have been Outlaw Star. When you compare it to Outlaw Star, this is much more grounded. This is much more American consumer friendly because it is so approachable. You have these old beat up vehicles that look real and weathered. And I heard this story that the show almost got canned because, Bandai and Sunrise wanted to sell toys. It's like, nobody wants to buy things that look all crappy and beat up. It's like, no, you don't get it. Just wait. And now it's like 20 some years later, it is celebrated as like this, like the paragon.
Who doesn't have the fucking swordfish?
Yeah.
On the any collector has a fucking swordfish or the Bebop or the fucking
I don't know what Jet's thing is called.
No, Phase.
I don't know what hers is called either.
Yeah,
I was actually really sad that Jet didn't have his own ship on the Bebop.
I mean, he's got the Bebop.
He has the Bebop, but when he needed to go do like smaller things, he has a little like tow truck ship.
Also, I was sort of sad that, although again, we're probably gonna get into spoilers now. The way that Faye gets her iconic ship, it was a little sad to see her take that long to get it. But dang it, I love the way she gets it.
I thought that was a fine episode. I thought like the
episode
ending was
7
like,
is the best episode of the show.
Maybe. It definitely had the most emotional resonance.
Yeah, it's the one with the most believable emotional arc. It's the one with some of the best lines. Iron Mink is actually funny. Okay, I'm sorry. The twist.
Yeah, the twist was great, and
See, by the way,
making the con artist her mother figure rather than some dude that she fell for, I kind of dug. I liked that dynamic a lot.
By the way, and this should go to show, I can't appreciate stuff from this series, even though it's different in a lot of ways, but still does a bunch of the original stuff differently. Like, it's not just...
I didn't mind what they did with Gren. They took him from, the jazz bar on the prison planet and put him in a jazz bar that just happens to exist.
Two things about Gren real quick, because I really want to touch on this. There was an interview that the actor did with some outlet about the work they have done on other movies, and the fucking gall on the people who wrote this article, or at least the person who titled it, or the subtitle, it says that the actor said that they were correcting the mistakes of the anime. They don't say that at all in the actual article. They're actually talking about correcting the mistakes they made in a prior movie.
What the fuck?
Yeah, by the way, if you've seen the that quote from the actor saying that they fixed the problems of the anime, that's false. That's not real. That's
good to know. I'd heard somewhere, like...
That's total bullshit. And of course, all the worst people on the internet heard that and then posted it and never did any follow-ups because they're all hacks.
That's the problem. You don't have time to verify a lot of information.
You could read the fucking article!
You absolutely could, but...
Yeah, I know.
It's a lot easier to just get outraged and
I know.
Be satisfied in your outrage.
I'm just saying there are a bunch of people on the internet who are going to say, like, the media is lame and awful and doesn't know what they're doing or talking about and doesn't do any research, and then we'll retweet that or make a YouTube video about that and not do their actual own research. Hey, I did my research before I talked about this fucking shit. Anyway, the second part of Gren. This is not the Gren from the show.
Oh, absolutely not.
It's not anywhere close.
The only thing you get that's even relatively there is the fact that he works in a jazz bar and he has some connection to the syndicate.
They, by the way.
They.
Yeah. Both in the show and the actor.
Right.
That's all I'm saying. But in the show, I fucking loved Gren. This version of Gren, if completely separate.
I thought it was perfect.
Yeah, separate
for the character that they were playing.
Yeah, for the character in this show, separate from Gren from the original. Because if they tried to do Jupiter Jazz with this version of the character, that would have been weird.
There are a lot of things. A lot of people complain about many of the things that they changed from the anime to the show, like how they changed Faye's outfit or changed her backstory or like changed just how she is. The way she was in the anime would not play to the audiences like right now. I mean, it can, but she so heavily uses her sexuality in the show as a weapon that it would turn off some people.
Maybe I think that the thing that Cowboy Bebop did so well is that she was able to use her sexuality as a weapon, but she always ran up against issues in regards to that, and she knew how to use a gun. She was still able to fight.
There are some scenes where she does have like fucking point blank, like bullseye accuracy for out of nowhere, but that's kind of a Deus Ex Machina in a lot of ways.
It's just worth noting real quick as well that Watanabe's, I think, been pretty upfront about like a lot of the reason he specifically includes like big titty anime girls in his anime is because that's what the producers want and that's what sells. Yeah. So maybe if he had a choice, he would do it differently. We don't really know because every anime he makes is not totally his vision.
Yeah, and honestly, it's kind of hard to like really down talk either side of this. While I do believe that they made that choice because it will play better to the modern audiences, unfortunately then you have this thing where it's like, oh well, now she's just a badass hell yeah girl boss, when Faye in the anime was also a fucking badass girl boss just in her own way. But
I would have been alright if they had gone the direction of keeping the femme fatale angle. I think that's a completely valid angle to go with a character. The angle that they went, I did not know how to feel about this version of Faye Valentine, primarily because I was still trying to get on board with a lot of the character changes and like the way that they've reformatted the show, period. And again, that's why by the time I got to episode 7, I was able to appreciate this version of the character. I was able to appreciate the story that they were telling with her. Because no character, if it had just been her who had been modified heavily, then it would have been really fucking weird. But no character is unchanged in a dramatic fashion.
Yeah, and we'll get to my least favorite of them in a
Oh,
moment.
I would love to put that off as long as possible, because once I get started on that train, I won't be able to stop.
I don't know if we're going to be talking about the same character is the thing. But the one thing that a lot of people have boiled Faye down in this show is like snarky one-liner, snarky one-liner, eat dick, fart sniffer! Just a little too much. I think they went a little extra in some places.
I will say, was not expecting bisexual Faye. That was a choice.
I think it's fine. Honestly, the world that they presented to us is very pro-sexual. They even use the word pro-sexual.
Yeah. And by the way, I am actually very pro-sexual. I'm sex positive.
Yeah.
Yeah. Pro-sexual. I'm sex positive.
They use the term pro-sexual in the show.
Yeah.
Which I think is a perfectly.
And by the way, this show is horny.
It is insanely horny.
Yeah, I was not like. It's very horny, but it's not.
Like it's season 3 DBZA horny.
And there is just a lot of scenes that kind of lean into like a lot of really personal conversations, which is also kind of at odds like with the original. Like the original version has a lot of Japanese sensibilities. There are certain things that just aren't talked about or approached. Whereas in this version, fucking bidets, shaving your balls.
There's an episode where they go to not one but 2 brothels that are like across the city from each other.
And also has some heavy implications about what Spike Spiegel's into. Spike in this is a kinky little bastard.
Everybody in this is a kinky little bastard. I mean, like, hell, near the end of that episode, you just have Spike hanging upside down between a pair of titties.
That, by the way, that shot.
I think that's a fantastic shot.
Holy shit.
Like, I actually kind of like that episode, even though, like, the episode it was kind of aping from the anime, I think is way better. I love the Ein introduction episode in the anime so goddamn much.
Yeah, unfortunately, like, and again, like, there are so many things where the one thing that I really have to fault this show for, like, all on its own, is honestly its pacing. If this had been faster paced, a lot of these moments, these like bit-to-bit moments, wouldn't have felt so dragged out, because I had to force myself through the last 4 episodes. I literally had to force myself through the best episode of what I think is the best episode of the season, episode 7. And then the last 3 episodes were a slog, because all of the things that it's trying to do could have been done faster, like snappier, way more interesting, but it just wants to drag everything out with really boring, really try-hard dialogue.
And probably the biggest offender of what drags it out is having to shoehorn the Syndicate into fucking everything. And this is my biggest problem with the show.
Oh, the fact
what
that
they did to the Syndicate.
The Syndicate is so fucking, like...
Look, Vicious in the show did not have a lot of character. He gets some backstory. You get, like, drips and drabs of it. But ultimately, he is just scary guy with sword who has had, like, who felt betrayed by Spike. In this, they turn him into Kylo fucking Ren. They neuter him.
He is so much worse than Kylo Ren, though.
Yeah.
Because at least Kylo Ren had moments where he was actually intimidating.
And in this, like, you know, the initial introduction of him, even that, like, I didn't feel super intimidated. Like, as soon as I saw him, I'm like, oh no, he's going to be in this show a lot, isn't he?
Yep.
And he was. And giving Vicious a backstory was probably the worst thing they could do, because they turned him into a whiny little bitch baby.
He is a petulant, moronic, overly violent
baby.
Baby. Yes, he's a giant fucking baby.
And look, do you want to know how you write Vicious? You write him like a pizza cutter. All edge, no point.
And always never let him be the focus.
No.
Like, even in Jupiter Jazz...
Where he had, like, the most of his backstory.
Yeah. It's told through another character who's related.
And he speaks, like, 5 words in the flashbacks.
Yeah. Every scene that he's in, he's, like... I was actually talking with Stefan about this. the point of Vicious's character is not to be his own character. He is a part of Spike's history that comes back to haunt him. Much like in the original series, Julia is not much of her own character. She is a part of Spike's history that he can't let go of. That's why they're side characters. It's why when they show up, they are in the service of Spike's plot.
And when like the biggest divergent from the plot here is the fact that they had Julia like essentially marry Vicious in this show, whereas in the anime it's implied that she's been on the run trying to stay away from this syndicate shit for her entire life and needing to stay away from Spike in order to make that happen. But now you have this whole thing, and so when you have them finally like, you know, meet face to face in one of the most like castrating moments of Vicious's arc. Oh, you had that church, the church scene in the anime is so fucking good. It's so fucking good. And they had like so much, like they had a lot going for this one too. Where like it was fine shot for shot, and they you know, credit where credit is due to Vicious's actor. Then why are you still alive? It hit. But they ruined it like directly afterwards by having Julia insert herself there and then becoming the Cersei Lannister of this fucking show.
Yeah, what in the actual fuck? Like, what?
I guess we're in spoilers now, by the way.
We've been skirting spoilers for a while.
Yeah, no, I'm sorry, but like, I mean, we were already talking pretty heavily about. I absolutely hate Vicious in this, not just as an adaptation.
Good. I'm glad we were thinking of the same character.
Oh
then.
yeah, Vicious in this is easily the worst part of the show.
He is
like the only scene. You know the only scene that I liked him in? Literally the only scene I liked Vicious in at all? The ball shaving conversation. Because it's such they're both chilling. They're both relaxed.
That is something that I actually kind of dug was some of the backstory stuff. Not all of it, but when they're just like actually being friends and you get to see like how they like, although how they turned on each other is still like really forced and quick.
I mean, I don't know. I kind of dug on the way. I guess. Okay.
Okay. Then let me rephrase. The biggest problem I had with that entire thing is it all leads into the castration of Vicious. It's the fact that he can't do anything fucking right. He's incompetent. He is only good at one thing, and that's violence. He walks around with a sword because he's an edgy little sword boy, and all he knows is, you know, like he's an attack dog. He's vicious, but that's all there is to him, and every time you don't see him doing like something with a sword, he's just like, everybody hates me except for you, Fearless. You like me. At least I can count on you. Woo, woo, woo.
Yep, that's basically fucking. Also, the Fearless, like I don't know.
I was fine with that. I was fine with him like having a code name and having to change it after he died.
I mean, it makes a lot of sense that he wouldn't be using the same name that he did when he was working for the Syndicate.
That makes sense to me. I'm fine with that.
Like, I'm okay with him having the nickname. Fearless just sounds stupid. I'm sorry. Like, the fact that he has a name that's supposed to kind of represent...
Do you think he had a name before that? Because it's implied that he was raised by the Syndicate. Was he just called Boy until he did something incredibly courageous, like, Fearless?
It's actually, it'll be very interesting, like, if the name was given to him after, like, if he was just referred to, like, a code number or whatever name he might have had when he was an orphan. I don't know. I don't really know. All I know is that Fearless sounds stupid.
It does. It absolutely sounds stupid. Like, the first time I heard it, I was like, did they say Felix? Like,
if by the way, I feel like I'm way too deep into this now to make this disclaimer, but I feel like I have to because, oh my god, the fucking the discourse over this show. If you like this, if you like Netflix Bebop, cool, awesome, fine.
I said, I have a lot of problems with it, but I enjoyed it.
Yeah, like I am so fucking done trying to argue with people about the things that they like or don't like. Like they're wrong for liking or not liking something. I'm done, okay? But I will say this. I think it's bad. And so when I say it's bad, that's not me saying you're wrong and it's bad. That's me saying, in my opinion, it's bad.
I think it's okay, and I enjoyed it. I think there are a lot of good parts to it. One big up that I think actually might trump the anime in some ways. The remastered soundtrack is fucking beautiful.
Yeah, it's good. It's poorly used, but it's good.
I think it's like, I don't know. I think every song that they presented in this,
it's the song they should use for the scene.
Exactly.
But
and in the equivalent from the show, with the remastered doing I think it's fucking beautiful.
And some of the new music.
Yeah.
But my problem is, cool, they used the right songs in the right places. Too bad a lot of their camera work is really bad, and a lot of their action is really bad.
It's stiff because, the dude's 50.
Oh yeah, also John Cho as Spike Spiegel. Not my first choice. Very charismatic and acts it well.
I think he's fantastic in the talking scenes, but in some of the action scenes, a little stiff. The action choreography is very heavily blocked, but maybe could have been rehearsed more. Because Spike in the anime fights with the style of Jeet Kune Do, which is about using the minimal amount of movement to get the most amount of effect.
I will say this. There are a couple of action scenes I genuinely liked. Mm-hmm. The one in the fucking bathroom is good. It's a good fucking fight scene.
Yeah.
Others are not. Others, the fight scene with Vicious in the fucking headquarters.
Syndicate. Yeah, it was very
awful.
I was going to say it felt very like that throne room scene in The Last Jedi, except clunkier.
Way clunkier. Like at least in that fight scene, at least in that in the Last Jedi fight scene, well, there's a lot of stuff that if you stop,
the camera was being very dynamic and moving, and it was visually interesting.
Yeah, it's there's a lot of problems with the choreography, which a lot of people have pointed out. A lot of people have made videos, but when I was watching it the first time, I was like, this is sick. Because at least it communicates a lot of movement. It's easy to read.
Yeah, whereas when Vicious is fighting the Syndicate, it's like, okay, these guys are clearly standing around waiting for their turn to get stabbed.
Yeah. Also, like none of the money shots are there. It's hard to see what's going on. It all looks really muddled.
And they ruined one of my favorite Vicious lines, where he should have saved it for that scene. "And you shall shed tears of scarlet." Like, he says it's his first line in the show. I'm like, why are you saying that right now?
Because they've ruined him. They ruined Vicious. Also, fucking they gave Faye, "I'm not gonna carry that weight." Which, okay. I don't know. It's really difficult. I hate this. By the way, I hate having this conversation because I know that there are going to be a billion people in the comments, and I'm already expecting all of you saying, why can't you see it as its own thing? Because it's not trying to actually be its own thing, because it wanted to adapt all of those stories, and some of them shot for shot, line for line, without nailing why any of them actually worked. So sorry, it's really difficult for me to treat this as its own thing, because all the entire time, all I'm being reminded of was, man, they sure flubbed that.
One thing they did not flub, Ein is probably the cutest dog ever put to film.
Yep.
That dog they cast is fucking adorable. I wanted to pet him every goddamn time I saw him.
Also, they abandoned him.
They did.
Yeah, what the fuck?
Don't worry, Edward found him.
Which, I mean, I understand why they abandoned them from a production point of view, but it's really fucking odd to just like, hey, we're going to literally leave the dog out here. Okay, all this found family nonsense went out the right out the airlock the moment the dog could suddenly shoot holograms from its fucking eyes.
Yeah, that was an interesting choice, and the choice to tie literally everything into the Syndicate, which, I think they did a pretty decent job of doing it if that was the choice they were making. Yeah, they did a fine job of that. But, Mad Pierrot Le Fou, being a experiment for the Syndicate, who was also in the same lab as the Data Dogs, and
I understand why they didn't want to do the whole episodic thing, because when you do something like that in an American series, it kind of feels awkward, because especially in the Netflix model where they're trying to build these overarching stories, but it just did not work.
You say that, but the entire time I was watching this, I was thinking Netflix really wanted their own Mandalorian. the entire time I was watching it, I'm thinking, like, Mandalorian, while it did have an overarching plot, very much had episode-to-episode shit. And one of, like, some of the most popular series out there, like some of that, like, CW stuff, which is exactly where I'd put this. It's schlocky CW, like, R-rated CW material.
I was not expecting the word fuck to be thrown around as often as it was.
Yeah, but I as soon as it was, I'm like, all right.
I mean, it didn't bother me. I was just like, oh, okay, we're going full R-rated. That's kind of, like, it's not really, it did not really affect my enjoyment. I just was not prepared.
My point is, you have, like, all these amazingly popular shows out there. Supernatural made it somehow, like, 11 seasons, and almost half of, like, I don't know, maybe even, like, 2/3 of its episodes are Monster of the Week things. They could have easily done that with Cowboy Bebop and sprinkled in, like, plot details in the background, but they chose not to. Probably because they don't want this show to go a billion seasons.
Yeah, I honestly don't know how they're going to do more than another season of this if they're
I don't know either.
Material.
They might, like, with the plot changes they seem to be making, they may be able to squeeze a third out.
I mean, I still can't believe what they're doing with Julie.
That's so, it was,
Julia,
I mean, they're giving her a character, sure, but it's fucking weird.
Yeah, they're giving Julia an actual character with an actual arc, but, like, as I said before, the original show didn't do that for a reason, but again, now it's trying to aggressively be its own thing. Like, okay, we've established these characters, now we're going to go in a different direction, which, alright, please have better dialogue than your first season, because I will maintain that while it has plenty of great human moments with some great conversations, there's some other shit, like, I'm sorry, who greenlit the line, you've never felt true power until you've tasted the testicles of your enemies? Who? Why?
That actually sounds amazing. You're selling me on this show.
It's like, dude, it's Spider-Man 3 hysterical at times. Like, for real.
It's
Why
just...
wouldn't you write that line of dialogue?
If you can.
Also, the line, that sounds like blackmail. Oh, well, it is, because you are very black and you are very male.
You are black and you are male.
Yeah. I don't know how to respond to that. I mean, they were trying to make her aggressively MILF horny, and I get that, like...
Yeah, they were trying to turn her into, like a creepy sex pest, and it worked.
Also, the change that they made with... Oh, why am I forgetting her name? The informant that Spike had. Not the informant, but the person connected to the syndicate that he would go to in the show, who I believe just, like, ran a convenience store in the anime. It now owns the nightclub.
Oh, yeah.
Like, I loved her, though. Like, she was, like, one of my favorite characters.
She was a one-scene character in the show.
A couple.
She showed up near the end as well.
Yeah, and I think she had, like, maybe 3 scenes in the entire show, possibly 2. But I loved her whenever she showed up. The Netflix version decides to actually tie her greatly into the story, and honestly, that part, I really liked her character, and I really liked this. I think
the jazz bar was fine. I really liked the jazz bar as a cantina kind of set.
Yeah, but ultimately, again, like it's the show trying to flesh out the characters and flesh out all their backstories in a way that only makes the characters less interesting to me.
Yeah, because you throw it out there so quickly. Like I said, it's like a wiki dump in a lot of ways. You resolved Jet's plot, like, his whole betrayal arc in the first season.
Oh my god.
You resolved Faye's I don't know who I am in the first season. You, I guess, give Spike an entire new plot in the first season.
Their version of Black Dog Serenade is bad on its own and even worse as an adaptation of the original.
Yeah.
Like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
I genuinely I got really, really bored watching it because a lot of the angles...
and because you already know what's coming.
I mean, I know what's coming, but...
There's a part of you that think, okay, maybe they will make the twist that it is, that dude that's, fucking his wife that's doing it, but no, they stick pretty hard to the plot.
Although, there was a part of me that actually kind of dug on the fact that after that...
they're cool.
Yeah, they're actually, like, getting along with each other a little bit, which is, like, that's kind of neat, actually. Like, it's kind of...
I did dig that scene where at the end it's like, Oh man, did you know he was dirty? Yeah. I've been following that for a while now. Did you get anything? No. Oh, and you just killed the one guy that could have cleared your name. Man, that sucks.
But he's also like, well, good thing you weren't here. Wink, wink.
Yeah.
Get the fuck out.
I'm feeling things wrapping up, so I thought this might be a good, like, sort of wrapping up prompt. If this show were not called Cowboy Bebop, was not in any way connected to Cowboy Bebop,
Like they changed
made by
all
the same team, but
changed
was
all
just
the
a
nouns.
Sci-fi bounty hunter show.
Changed all the nouns.
Yeah, and like the same team basically made a different show with different writing, like with different episodes and stuff. Do you guys think you might have been more interested to like just see it go, even if it was like rocky at first?
I think I'd still have like a lot of the same feelings. I might feel, honestly, I might hate Vicious more just because I still have that connection to what that character was in the show to at least cling to. So I would have just looked at him like, who's this little bitch baby? If it did not have that connection, but I did not have the issue of like really separating it from the anime because I tweeted about this before. When you watch this, it is, while it's impossible to completely separate it, it's also nearly impossible to truly compare it because the anime is such like, it is legendary as an anime. It is something that is like, it's seen as many as the pinnacle of anime. I don't know if I necessarily agree, but it is still this like amazing little thing that is kind of a miracle that it actually happened. So when you really try to compare it, it's impossible. Because the only way you can compare it is by saying, yeah, this one's probably the superior version. Like, this one does its own thing. It does a lot of things very differently. It's the best way I can put it. It is a lot of ways like jazz. It's them doing a riff on something that a lot of people enjoy. And I think with what they're doing, you know, they fumble here and there, but in a lot of places, you get some gold. It's not perfect. It is far, far from perfect. But I think overall it is fine, and I enjoyed it.
I don't know if So one of the issues that I find is that there are a lot of things in the story, like in this universe, that go unsaid that I feel like you have to be a fan of the original to understand.
Maybe.
Almost a lot of the world building is completely abandoned. Like it's a lot of just like, oh, we're gonna throw you into this universe, not give you almost any information, and we're going to spend all of our time talking about the characters and getting into their backstories. But in terms of what happened to like the Earth or what happened to the rest of the galaxy, like you're kind of on your own.
Even though in the anime a lot of that is like kind of like some like kind of throwaway lines at times. They'll bring it up multiple times, like how Earth is a hellscape.
Yeah, I think the anime is a lot like that as well. So I might not be, I might be complaining about something that show did, but sorry. Let me get to my actual point. Trying to separate this entirely from the original anime, like Stefan asking if this were its own thing where they changed all the nouns. I don't fucking know, because they would have had to have changed all of their stories too. Because if they hadn't, they would have absolutely been copyrighted.
Right.
They would have been taken to court for ripping off Cowboy Bebop, because there's enough here that is exactly line for line, shot for shot from the original show.
Yeah, the entire opening scene is basically the convenience store scene from the movie.
Yeah, combined with like the casino stuff from episode 4 or 3?
Something like that.
Maybe even 2. Point being, there's too much from the original series there. So if they had changed all that, would it have been a show that I would have enjoyed on its own merits? I don't know. I haven't seen that show, and I can't just change it in my mind, because then it's just a show ripping off Cowboy Bebop.
Yeah. And
So, like, I don't know if there's a way for me. Like, I would have had to have never seen the original Cowboy Bebop to have gone into this and enjoyed it. And maybe that's how a lot of people who enjoy the Watchmen movie are able to enjoy the Watchmen movie all on its own, because I can't. I do not like the Watchmen movie because it tonally and even subtly to me misinterprets the point of the original, like the intent of the comic.
I just love schlock.
I agree with you, Scott. Fuck that movie.
Like, I felt like Zack Snyder's overly violent, aggressive style over substance take on the material completely missed what made Watchmen. Here, it's just impossible for me to say whether or not this show would have been more enjoyable to me or even good to me if I hadn't seen the original. But all I know is there were some scenes that I liked. There were whole episodes that I could be like, that I actually enjoyed that. But the stuff that I did not like very rarely had to do actually much with the poor adaptation of the stuff that I remember. Most of that just annoyed me. There's so many, like, a lot of the action scenes are not very good. A lot of the dialogue is exceptionally bad. The pacing is awful. So, I don't know. Like, if you guys, again, if anyone else liked it, cool. I'm glad that you found it fun and that its goofier moments hit for you. That these versions of the characters and their relationships were compelling. I can see why. Again, I do like the dynamic that they build with Jet, Spike, and Faye. Although I thought like them celebrating or the birthday cake was a little early. Yeah. It does feel like they really fast-tracked their friendships.
They did, and then they leave the show in a weird place too, because now everybody's going their separate ways.
So they can do the bringing the band back together at the beginning of the next season.
But it's just so bizarre that that's the point they decided to introduce Ed. Like, why, how, what, where, and who decided?
I feel really bad for that actor.
I really do. They are getting shit on right now super hard, and I know it's not their fault. It's 1,000% not their fault.
Oh my god, yeah, by the way, if you ever attack an actor for their performance in something...
Yeah, fuck you if you do that.
No, honestly, most bad performances that you see in films are, like, okay, not most. Some bad performances you see in films
it comes down to script, director, and like sometimes the actor. Sometimes the actor's bad.
Sometimes the actor is
there are cases where there are bad actors, and yeah, sure, critique that all you will, but don't.
As a voice director who's worked with many people, I have gotten great performances out of people who are still very, very rusty, who are very new. You can get good performances out of rocky actors. It just takes a lot of work, and specifically with them. So, whenever you see a bad performance, consider that. Don't automatically blame the actor or the director, but consider sometimes it's just bad direction.
It was the worst decision in the world to end on Ed.
Yeah.
I think ending right there was the worst thing they could have done, because all they did was fuel the flames of the people that were already going to hate the show.
Yeah, honestly, yeah. Legit. Like, that was... When I saw that pop up on Twitter, I was like, oh no. Oh, this is the discourse. This scene will be... This is what the Netflix Bebop is. And that's not even fair.
No, it isn't.
I'm saying it as somebody who does not like the show. And I think that using the Ed clip as a representation of what the rest of the show is like is absolutely unfair.
No.
Like, there are, again, and I want to bring it back around, by the way. I think the opening to the show, the opening for Netflix Bebop, is a perfect representation of everything I find wrong with the show.
But also, in some ways, a lot of the things that are right with the show.
Maybe. Because the opening is almost shot for shot. But they do change some things. And also Ed's not in it, so.
Yeah, I think they did a very good job of introducing you to the world through that. Because it's like, yeah, okay, there's these guys robbing a casino. They have their own little bullshit ideology going on,
I mean the opening sequence. Like the
Tank. Yeah, if we want to talk a little bit about the opening, the fact that they decided to spoil chunks of the show in the opening run was rough. Like, showing off things that were going to be in this season. It's like, okay, I almost would have rather they, like, I hate it when anime does it. Like, I can't watch most openings to most shonen shows because, you know, they'll show off, like, the villain and then, like, a bunch of little, like, plot details that I'm going to be able to read into.
Well, I mean, in a show like Cowboy Bebop, it doesn't really matter.
True, but it's like, okay, so I guess we're getting this, and this season when I'm watching that.
The thing that truly bothered me is that all the stuff that they, like, as I was saying, the reason I feel like it is a perfect representation of the show is that everything that it tried to do from the original show looks worse than it does in the original opening, and everything they change is not good. All the new things that they added are bad. Everything. Like, having shots from the show splice in, bad. It doesn't look good. It doesn't jive with the rest of the opening. And the idea to invert all of the what was originally English text with Japanese text, that's a choice, I guess, but like, I don't know. They went out of their way to make a worse version of that original opening, and everything that was in the original opening that they kept just looks worse. And that's perfect for this show. Everything that they kept is just a worse version of it, and everything new they added wasn't very good.
No, I don't necessarily agree with all those points, but I've given my points to the contrary.
Yeah.
Well, with that, what'd you guys think of it? Have you even watched it? Do you plan to? It's entirely up to you. It's a lot of time to spend on something when there's a lot of things to watch and a lot of things to do.
Like Arcane. I'm 5 episodes into that, and holy shit.
I have my own feelings on that. I have not watched it. But with that, let us know what you think in the comments below. Thank you so much for tuning in and hanging out with us and making us a part of your day. And we'll catch you guys next time on the Talkcast Podshow. Later, Space Cowboys.